I think people who know the both of us know that you have a very friendly relationship with the Cena household, Mr. Cena himself. You and your son and your family are close to them, which gives you probably a bit of a closer sort of fandom to John himself because you know his dad very well, and I know you've met him before as well. And we have this storyline for 2025 that I think is a brilliant idea for not only for John Cena, but for WWE in general, because they have so many moving pieces and expectations, and Netflix is here, and they got to keep up this hot streak. And I think this is brilliant to have John Cena have a retirement year. And how do you tell this story? What are the highs and lows of the retirement year for John Cena? Um, what are you thinking about going into his final year in wrestling?
You know, the thing that I thought about the most is what AEW is doing with Danielson now. I thought you
Mhm.
could give John one last run with the belt, and he could be like, "Look, even if I'm still holding this belt at the end of the year, like I'm done. And if I lose this belt, like, that's it, folks." And I don't think they go that route now because I actually think it works better with Danielson because at least with
Yeah.
John, he said it's 2025 and
Right.
that's it. But I still think that you put a belt on him if they want him to win the world title. But I've even thought about what if he pairs up with someone and wins the tag titles, if he gives somebody the rub somehow, because I feel like if you have him feuding with, say, like a Carmelo Hayes, you kind of expect him, oh, he's going to put him over. He put over Austin Theory before. But if you link him up with someone and then they win the tag titles, or there's some type of thing where it's them against Judgment Day or them against the Bloodline again, similar to what he did briefly with LA Knight last year. If you do something like that, I think at least one new or modern member of the roster needs to get the rub before he retires. Who that would be, I don't know. I like Carmelo Hayes, so that's kind of why I threw his name out there. If you could link them up somehow, but I think the goal should be, you can do your CM Punk match again, you can do your Randy Orton match again, but I think somebody new has to come out of this one with the spotlight on them by the time John retires.
Your comparison to Bryan Danielson is very interesting because the thing that makes the Bryan Danielson story work, or at least as far as I know, it should work. We don't know what's going to happen yet. There is stakes in every single Bryan Danielson match. Not only the title, which is one thing, but also the idea that he's going to have to retire if he loses. So you have double the stakes in every Bryan Danielson match. And that's the thing that I think is interesting about the Cena thing, because if he doesn't have the title, how do you give him stakes for the importance of these matches? Because he can have a match, like you said, with Randy Orton or CM Punk. But what happens if he loses? Like I don't want to see a lovable loser John Cena retirement run. I want to see John Cena competitively in storylines and in big pieces of WWE's 2025. And how do you tell this story of this guy who you want to be one of the most memorable characters of all time? But he's going to have this. He's probably going to have the instinct of putting people over. I actually want to see him win these matches so that he can build up to this title run, that he can break that fictional Flair record, and he can have that as his going out present. And then last pay-per-view of the year, or whatever one that they decide is the last pay-per-view of the year, then he does lose that match. And maybe it's a little predictable that he does, but it could be whomever that next star is that you want to be in the mix, then that is the guy. But I worry a little bit that because WWE is so hot right now, they kind of go, oh, we can pretty much do anything and it's going to work. I actually really want to see a good story for John in this upcoming next year, because he's important and it'll draw and it'll help them with the hot streak that they're currently on. I don't want to see them just kind of throw this one away.
I think the biggest story to tell with him would be with Gunther. I think you get John on Raw and you have them feud. And Gunther's very articulate. He comes out there and he can cut a good promo. You could do something where Gunther's like, your celebrity means nothing to me. You need to get to the back of the line. You're not going to walk onto Raw and try to get a shot at my belt. And then that way you can kind of give a reason why John's fighting with, Ashanti the Adonis or Cedric
Mhm.
Alexander or a guy like at that level. And you could have Gunther say, if you beat these guys, then you can fight me. And it's almost like, started from the bottom, now we're here. He's working his way up the ladder to Gunther. And so we talked about how we know 2025, that's it. If you have him beat Gunther at the end of the year, say he beats him at like Survivor Series, and then you're like, oh, well, he's going to lose the belt in December. You could actually have him retain in December, put the belt up for grabs in the Royal Rumble, have him
Mhm.
retire as champion, and then you start 2026 with, like the 1992 Royal Rumble, the belt's up for grabs, and you give that pay-per-view more stakes. So you can actually kind of play off John's run, and then you're starting off that year hot because now you don't know who's going to be the champion.
I think 2016 Royal Rumble as well, the belt was up for
Yep.
grabs, and that one is a little less memorable, by the way. I was able to ask Ric Flair when, Dave and I interviewed him. I was like, as this match is going on, like, do you realize, like, how this match is going to be the one that is everyone compares the Royal Rumble to? He's like, "Nope." Just it was just a match. It was just, so many good guys in that match. And it's like one of the most memorable matches for people our age is that
Mhm.
Royal Rumble match. So I actually like that idea, but it also made me think, do you think he's going to be in the 2025 Royal Rumble? Because your idea of having him win matches, WWE doesn't necessarily have rankings. They have a lot of like number one contender tournaments and these wacky, like what they're doing with the Intercontinental Tournament right now. It's like, oh, you're going to be in a three-way to get to a four-way to get to a singles match. And I'm like, okay, you guys are just doing too much. But that is one way, is he could literally win the Royal Rumble to earn that title shot for WrestleMania, which is one way to do it. I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but it is a way to do it. I kind of hope he is in that Rumble, because if he doesn't win it, there's an immediate reaction to him getting kicked out. It's an important person to get taken out of that match.
So if someone's going to take him out of the Rumble, I think it's got to be by shenanigans. I don't think it could just be, Drew McIntyre clotheslining him over the top or something like that. And McIntyre, I mentioned that name off the top of my head. Having him, maybe going back to the '92 Rumble, if you have McIntyre be the Hogan to Cena's Sid, and McIntyre gets eliminated and pulls him out, or if you have someone who's just a total shithead like Dominic Mysterio in the Judgment Day, and then you kind of give Cena, I guess, the guaranteed win for WrestleMania. You kind of set him on that path. And then after he gets that grudge out of the way, but it's got to be somebody who is like, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to retire you early. You're not making it till the end of the year. So, you've got the Judgment Day where it's like the gang effort. I'd keep him away from the bloodline. Don't mix him in with any of that stuff. He'd get overshadowed by all that stuff, I think, which is crazy to say about someone like John Cena. But I
Mhm.
think you've got Roman, you've got Cody, you've got The Rock. Keep him separate from them. That's why I say stick him on Raw.
Yeah, The
So
Rock
someone like
already, rock bottomed him at WrestleMania. I thought John cracked his head against the mat on that on that bump too. I was like, "Oh my god." What do you
but
think
then
about but what do you think about, John's run outside of the neck injury? He was pretty healthy for his career. I'm sure he had other injuries that I'm forgetting, but the neck
he
injury
had
was
the
the one that I
torn pec
remember.
in late '07.
Okay. So that is the thing that I think I worry about the most, like, when you project a year and you kind of have things laid out for the entire year, his health is like the one thing that could screw this entire idea up. It was almost like when he said what the idea was, my first instinct was, "Oh man, I wish you wouldn't have said it, and I wish you would have just done it, because now if you do get hurt, then it kind of ruins the plan."
Right. And it's like flying him out to Rhoda, just cut a promo or do a run in or something like that. Like if you want to see him on this tour, you want to actually see him in action.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason why I had like the idea that you link him up with someone in a tag team, at least for a little while, because then he can just kind of do the short bursts, hit the FU, tap the guy out, do the signature spots, and then you do the singles matches here and there. But then for those last, 4 to 6 months, then you really hit it into overdrive and you can do the title run or the big grudge matches. I'm also wondering how they get to him and Cody, because I'm sure Cody wants that match.
Yeah.
But then you've got babyface versus babyface, unless you use that to turn Cody Rhodes heel.
Well, they did the babyface with Kevin Owens, which was a really good match, though. I also did not like that story. Um, yeah, we got to get it at some point. It's like yesterday's hero versus today's hero, which is really cool.